Howdy, folks. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn. Today, for you, going to be talking a bit about Dungeons and Dragons again. As well, folks, there is actually something I want to talk about that's kind of a bit of a problem with me when it's related to Dungeons and Dragons. And understand, there's quite a few inaccuracies within Dungeons and Dragons, but I think the most egregious of the inaccuracies in Dungeons and Dragons is the falchions. So the falchion is depicted as essentially a really long scimitar, which is actually incorrect. It is not a two-handed scimitar by any stretch of the imagination. It's not even really related to the scimitar, considering its place of the falchion's place of origin is not the same place of origin as the scimitar. Now there is some relatable things. It does sort of have a curved blade, even though not all examples of the falchion does have a curved blade. The next thing is like the scimitar, although not all scimitars, but most commonly scimitars have a bit more weight towards the tip, and it's more of a cleaving sword. So in certain regards, it does sort of kind of fit some of the boxes that the scimitar fits, but not really. So this is actually a falchion. This is actually a single-handed sword. Um, the blade ranges anywhere from 20 to 25 inches, is my understanding. This is historically speaking. And what you have is you have a blade that is broad at the hilt. It's a very wide blade or thick blade at the hilt, and it slowly thins out as you get towards the tip. And actually, the tip area, especially of the cutting edge, it's actually paper, almost paper thin. It's really thin. It's like 3 millimeters or something like that. It's extremely thin, and that's because the sword was made for chopping and cleaving. So the idea is you have a little bit of additional weight and blade at the top, and it's more narrow at the bottom. As you can see, the blade is not quite as wide there. But it is actually a rather short single-handed sword. These were pretty popular in the 13th century. However, they would quickly lose favor for other types of swords, which I'll get into here in a bit. Now, here is another falchion, and actually, many of you will probably look at this and think of a machete, and that's because the machete has a very similar blade to the falchion, at least when it comes to shape. Not so much the style, but as you can see here, once again, it's narrow at the hilt with a wide base. It's a thicker blade at the hilt, and then it thins out as you get towards the tip, and that's where it widens out to have additional force for helping with cutting and cleaving. And then here is another type of falchion, where this one is actually, well, this is actually I don't want to say a LARP. It's not really a LARP falchion, but it's a more modern medieval combat falchion, which the modern medieval combat falchions are actually incorrect as well. And that's because it has to do with rules and regulations. The blade has to be made thicker. And that's the big issue with the modern medieval combat style falchions, like you'd see in, I don't know, Battle of Nations maybe, or something along those lines. We didn't use something like this in the SCA. Now, it is something that actually Kingdom Come Deliverance did get right with the falchions, although by the point of Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is I think it was 1403 for Kingdom Come Deliverance, the falchion would have pretty much fallen out of favor, but they would still been around. And this is actually one reason why I'm going to get into the falchion falling out of favor. Although there are still uses for the falchion even in Kingdom Come Deliverance. But they still did a really good, accurate depiction. However, they called them hunting swords. Now, there was a sword called a falchion. There was actually a few swords with falchion in the name in the category of hunting swords, but they categorized them as hunting swords instead of falchions. And as you can see here, here is one of those said hunting swords, which is actually another type of falchion. And then here is the actual one of the actual falchions from Kingdom Come Deliverance. Looks pretty similar to one of those swords I showed you just a bit ago. Now the thing is with these swords is they are meant for cleaving. They're meant through slicing and cleaving through opponents that have little to no armor at all. So such as Gambison. And this is one reason why the falchion fell out of favor, because armor became more common, particularly armor such as chainmail, plate mail, etc. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there for a moment. But it would have issues. It's not very good for dealing with particularly chainmail, but it's even worse for dealing with plate mail because of how the sword is designed. It really can't take a lot of damage. It's pretty easy to blunt it, beating it on steel. And the other problem too is because of how thin the blade is made, the blade kind of has a lot of flex and wobble to it. And that leads to a problem in itself because it doesn't transfer force very well, especially when it comes to dealing with plate style armor. And that is actually why it is not such a very effective sword in Kingdom Come Deliverance. I see a lot of people online saying about that the hunting swords or the falchions in Kingdom Come Deliverance actually need buffed, and it's actually no, they're exactly accurate to what they need to be. The problem is plate armor by the 14th, 15th century is so common that the falchion was practically useless. So that's just some historic information about the falchion and what the falchion looks like and what its purpose is. This whole two-handed kind of a great sword length scimitar is not a falchion. And honestly, I have no idea how long this has been kind of an issue within Dungeons and Dragons. Because even if I remember correctly from the advanced second edition days, the falchion was also depicted as kind of this two-handed great sword like scimitar, and not even anywhere close to what it is. But anyway, folks, hopefully you learned a little bit of something in today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.